Hanime here, and welcome to the last review of Hanime on Anime 2020. And while today's film might not ring a bell for a lot of you, I think it actually kind of deserves to be talked about for its portrayal of autism. Now, as an action thriller, I think differently, but definitely for its portrayal of autism. Well, and I think with that out of the way, let's get started with today's review on The Accountant. On the surface, Christian Wolf is a modest accountant with high-functioning autism. But what few know is that Chris is a military-trained assassin who has worked for some of the most notorious people in the world. When hired to audit a biomedical company's finances along with the company's own accountant, played by Anna Kendrick, the two discover a case of fraud within the company. Soon, the two find themselves in a high-stakes chase as they're tracked down by other assassins hired to kill them in order to cover up the fraud. Not only that, Chris is also being tracked by the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network due to a personal connection between him and its director. It's an interesting film to say the least, but how does it stack up with its autistic lead? Well, you'd actually be kind of surprised. You know, it's strange. While this film is serviceable at best, The Accountant actually has one of the most unique portrayals of autism I've ever seen. And I kind of like it for that. Christian Wolf is not the best portrayal of autism in film, but he is a fun one. The whole idea of having an autistic assassin is unique and something I have yet to see. The irony, though, is that many critics have found the idea of someone on the spectrum, with their need for logic and calculation, being the perfect hitman as offensive. And having every autistic character be a scientist, tech wizard, or savant isn't? Yeah, that's right, Chris. Learn a thing or two from the gold standards here. Got so much to live up to. Do these critics not know that some people on the spectrum are soldiers too? I mean, as someone on the spectrum, I actually thought that the autistic assassin approach was something different and fun. I mean, if nothing else, it's a whole lot different than, well, your scientist, tech wizard, and savant. Also, this is a career that I would imagine would be a nightmare for someone on the spectrum. Imagine the amount of stress you'd have to deal with if you botched a job and didn't have a backup plan. That's a meltdown waiting to happen. So, despite what some critics have said about the film, again, I don't see why this is offensive. Chris himself is a neat interpretation of what autism could look like. Another part to the film that I loved, besides Chris as an autistic character, was how the film treats autism as a whole. Despite Chris not being one of the best autistic characters in film, I do feel like autism is treated positively in many regards in this film. One of those, and probably the more obvious, is the film's underlying message that people on the spectrum can do just about anything. As I said before, I would imagine being an assassin would be a very tense and stressful job, but someone with autism could do it if they set their mind to it. I don't think I would recommend it, but granted, much of this stems from what we know about Chris's past, but I don't think critics should have gotten so uptight about an autistic man with military training becoming an assassin. Add to the fact, too, that most of his funds go towards this special school for children with autism that he himself went to as a little boy. Now, how cool is that? A chance where someone on the spectrum can do just about anything, even give back to those affected by or help those with autism, is pretty awesome. Another great scene, too, involves Chris and Anna Kendrick's character, named Dana, as they're on the run. While hiding out in a pretty nice hotel, Dana attempts to start a conversation with Chris. It doesn't go well at first, with Chris at one point saying he can't because of his autism. But then out of the blue, Dana tells this story about her trying to find money to buy this certain prom dress. Long story short, she's able to buy the dress she wants, but only wears it once, which was the exact opposite reason for buying this dress in the first place. As irrelevant as this story may seem, there's a silver lining to it. What it actually does is it shows the audience that someone with autism can, in fact, have a conversation and be able to relate and understand what's being said. Then there was the final scene of the movie, which was probably my favorite part of the film and the creme de la creme of the film's positive view on autism. Throughout the film, Chris has an informant that he speaks to frequently for assignments and on ways to get through tough situations.
She is not your problem. Straight to the trailer, hook it up, and disappear.
We never learn the true identity of this person until the film's final moments. And ironically, we actually meet this person in the very beginning of the movie. In this ending scene, at the school where Chris donates most of his earnings, a little boy walks around till he comes into a room. There, he meets a low-functioning autistic woman named Justine. As the boy's parents tour the school, the boy stays with Justine, who then shows him a desktop computer where she plays back the audio of Chris's informant. That's right, a low-functioning autistic woman has been the one not only helping Chris find assignments, but to also hide him and move him when things go south. It's as if Carly Fleischman became M from the Bond movies. It's just so cool. And it hammers in the message at this point, if it wasn't clear by now, people with autism can do just about anything. And that pretty much seems to be the whole theme of this movie. Even though there are in fact problems with this movie, which we'll talk about in a minute, given the constant stereotypical portrayals of autism we get in TV and film, I welcomed this film's view on it. So while the film has a mostly positive and unique portrayal of people on the spectrum, as a film, it could have been a lot better. While I love this film's positive view on autism, there are at times where it feels like it's more of an afterthought than an actual theme. Like it was something that the producers threw in last minute. There's also a lot of plot holes, especially when it comes to Chris's backstory that really shouldn't be there. For example, at what point did Chris's brother become a mercenary and have some kind of grudge against him? Yeah, somewhere between childhood and adulthood, he becomes a mercenary and his team are later hired by the biomedical company, and weirdly he's mad at Chris for some reason I never could figure out. I mean, there was this whole thing about their mother's funeral and all, but nothing is ever mentioned about the brother by that point. So who's to say he wasn't involved then? In fact, why is he even in this movie as the villain? Also, we get a few scenes of Chris routinely overstimulating himself, and yet nowhere in his backstory do we see how or why this came to be. Though we get this awesome scene where he does target practice at a client's house and draws emotes on pumpkins. That's one way I can see an autism advocate saying, stick it to AS. One final issue that I took with the movie was the child actor who played Christian in all of the flashbacks. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to bash on a kid. I don't think he's a terrible actor at all. It's just, I think this was his first time playing a character with autism. So in moments where he's supposed to be autistic, it feels like an act. In particular, in the two scenes where he has a meltdown, it feels staged. Like the director said, "Okay, kid, here's the scene. You're a boy with autism, and you're just finishing this jigsaw puzzle when all of a sudden you lose a piece and you have a meltdown. Got it? Good. And action!" action!
I need to finish.
Yep, you're doing great, kid. Nailing it to it. Now, I know that autism is different in everyone. Trust me, I know this. But the performance felt like, well, a performance. None of it really seemed genuine. I didn't see a kid with autism. I saw a kid pretending to be a kid with autism. But again, he's not a terrible actor. I just thought the performance could have been a lot better. And this kind of leads me to the conclusion that this film is very much a mixed bag. Some things it does well, or at least is pleasing to me, and others could have been a lot better. It doesn't have the best portrayal of autism out there, but it is an enjoyable one. So, yeah, I think, given everything that I've said, I don't think it's a bad film whatsoever. And take that for what it's worth. And so that wraps up today's review. As always, thank you so much for watching my Hanime on Autism 2020 event. And be sure to stick around for my one and only Miyazaki May review as I talk about a perfectly interesting movie. Isn't that right, guys? Yep, they're excited, and so am I, because cats. Not that one. Till next time, bye!